I'm going to put my phone on silent so nobody drives us crazy. All right, 10 o'clock, so we're going to start right away. First of all, a couple housekeeping items that I just wanted to go over with you. First of all, a lot of you have been asking about the offices being sold. They're up for sale. They are not sold. And again, the reason behind it is nobody ever comes into the offices, so it's kind of crazy to have all this money sitting there doing nothing. So I'm unsure as to how long it will take for everything to sell. It could take 6 months. It could take a year. It might never sell. Who knows? But we are going to get an office in Braintree. We are going to get an office in Marshfield, something smaller, a little bit more manageable. And we'll have all the bells and whistles, have the copy machine and all that good stuff. So there's no need to worry or get concerned about that. It's actually going to be a big help for the company in terms of dollars and cents. So I also wanted to chat with you about the mobile deposits. Yesterday, about 90% of the deals that we do right now, we do mobile deposits. And occasionally, some of you say, well, my client won't do a mobile deposit. They want to drop the check off at the office. And I kind of understand that. There's some old-fashioned thinking out there. We're not going to try to change their minds. But the problem is that yesterday, somebody dropped off a check in the Braintree office in a very, very tiny little envelope that was sticky, and it stuck to the back of a postcard. So we were looking for this check, and we couldn't find it, and we couldn't find it. And we had Christine look, and we had John Connolly look, and we got that close to calling up the client going, look, obviously you didn't drop off the check. And that would have been bad because Christine found the check, taped to the back of a postcard. So it really is way helpful if we can get the checks mobile deposit directly to me, so we're not searching all over creation for these checks. What mailbox did you put it in? What agent did you give it to? It's really kind of a hassle. So when you talk to your clients, just say to them, all you got to do is just text me a picture of the front of the check, and then I'll text it to Steve, and then we'll send you a receipt when it's deposited. That's it. It's so simple. All right. I also wanted to chat with you about the market situation right now. I'm getting lots and lots of complaints from all of you, not kicking and crying complaints, but concerned complaints regarding the fact that your listings are not selling as fast as you would like them to be sold. And that is very explainable. And what's happening right now is, first of all, we're coming into winter. November is a couple weeks away. And so things are going to really slow down in November, December, January, and February. We need to be prepared for that. And that happens every single year. But the bigger situation is that most of the offers that are multiple offers are over. We're not seeing those really at all anymore. So you need to prep your clients for that. So you're going to need to explain to people, look, we're going to need 6 months on this listing. And, things are not the way they were, 8 months or a year ago. You got to pay attention to price. You got to pay attention to marketing. And most importantly, you got to prep them for their expectations, because everyone's going to be expecting multiple offers. I'll pick on myself. When I put the buildings up for sale, I knew for a fact that, I wasn't going to be getting multiple offers on these buildings. It's going to be a long haul slog on these buildings. And you need to kind of prepare for that when you are getting a listing these days. So the other thing is you should be getting 5% listings right now. The 4% listing era is pretty much over because the market is not as crazy as it was. When you could list a piece of property on a Friday and on Sunday you had 8 multiple offers, then yeah, you could do it for 4%. But now you're going to be holding on to these properties for a while. You're going to be, holding a lot of hands. So you should be getting a 5%, not a 4%. That's really important. So today's little session, we're not going to be here for an hour. We're only going to be here for about half an hour. And I just wanted to touch base with you. I'm pretty pleased with what's been going on in terms of these changes that we've made. I think everybody was kind of freaking out about it, thinking, oh my God, everything's going to change. I think really the only thing that has really changed is I've seen an uptick on the commissions. So most of the offers that are coming in to the office from co-brokes are asking for 2.5%. So, and actually, I mean, hey, we're in the business to make money, so I think that's good. And there's really been, from my perspective, no downside to what's been going on. So I want to kind of throw it out at you and first of all, see if anyone has any specific questions that we can tackle before we get into, we're going to go over exclusive right to sell and buyer agency. But anybody have anything specific that they have a question on? Is that a no? All right. So let's go over the exclusive right to sell listing agreement. There's still a lot of confusion about this form for some reason. We're not going to go over the entire form. We're just going to go over the meat and potatoes as it pertains to buyer agency. So, but what I will say is that, again, when we talk about listing price on these properties, we want to pay attention to the comps, and we want to pay attention to what the situation is in terms of time-wise. So again, we're in almost November. So we got November, December, January, February, 4 tough months. So make sure that you pay attention to the price and that it's competitive. The listing period, again, should be 6 months. And the listing broker's fee. Now, this is important. Again, we want to try to get a 5% listing. All right. And so when you talk to your clients, you're going to say to them, this is how it works. We break things into 2 basic transactions, the marketing side and the selling side. So the marketing side, you're going to pay me 2.5% to represent you. And we don't necessarily control the selling side, because if Century 21 comes in, Jack Conway comes in, they're going to come in with what they want for a commission, what they've agreed to with their client. And we'll get into that in a few moments. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, my fee is 2.5%. Okay. Now, if I'm fortunate enough to bring in the buyer as well, then that's another side to the transaction, and we'll be getting another 2.5%. Okay. Now, this is where you can negotiate a little bit, and you can say, if I bring in the buyer myself, I'll do it for 2%. So it's a total of 4.5% commission. All right. And, but you can also, stick to your guns at 5. I wouldn't necessarily, offer that discount right off the bat. I'd go in at 2.5 and 2.5. So when you are discussing the other 2.5, all right, you're going to say to them, look, if John Smith from Jack Conway has a contract with their buyer. We can't control that. And they're going to include that compensation into the offer. And so right now, I'm getting 2.5%. They might come in at 2. They might come in at 2.5. They might come in at 3. We don't know. We'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. All right. But it's really important that you short circuit one aspect of the commission. And that's that you explain to your sellers that whatever the commission happens to be, all right, we're not going to attack it. We're going to look at the big picture and see what you're going to net, and that we're not going to negotiate the commission. All right. That's really, really important on a lot of different fronts. Okay. Because they have already got a contract. Let's use that Jack Conway example again. They've got a contract with their buyer that they're going to get 2.5%. So who are you to attack that contract? You can't. All right. So all you can do is prep your seller and tell them that if you're not happy with the net, then you can negotiate the price. All right. But we're not going to cherry pick and go after the commission. That's really, really important. And I've had this talk a bazillion times with agents about negotiating your commission. All right. Sometimes when you're $3,000 or $4,000 apart, a little light bulb goes over your head and you think, well, if I knock off 2,000 and then the other broker knocks off 2,000, we can put this deal together. That is a slippery, bad slope. All right. You don't want to ever start negotiating your commission, because once you start, it never ends. If that deal doesn't happen, then the next deal, they're going to ask you for the same $2,000 change. And then perhaps by that time, you'll have put, months into work on this property, and you don't want to give that 2,000, but they won't understand that. So never, ever, ever negotiate the commission. All right. So, anybody have any questions on this so far? All right. So, you'll see in 4A, it'll say 2.5%. You'll put in that 2.5%. We're not doing flat fees. So you're gonna ixnay the flat fees. Everything else on that is normal. Under buyer's broker's fee, number 5, you're going to check the second box. Okay, does not authorize nor agree to have listing broker offer a buyer's broker fee. Now, the reason we do that is to stay within the confines of the settlement. All right. And a lot of you have been, in fact, I've been getting a lot of phone calls from agents saying, hey, Steve, are you offering compensation on your property at such and such an address? And my response is always the same. My seller fully expects to compensate you. Just put your compensation into the offer. Okay. But when you answer yes to that and what the fee is going to be, you violated the settlement agreement. So it's not like attorneys are snooping behind every rock and every tree, but some are. And you don't want to be that person that says, oh yeah, I'm offering 2.5%. The moment you say that, either verbally or in writing or by a text, you expose yourself legally. So the answer is, my sellers fully anticipate compensating you. Just put your compensation into the offer itself and we'll take it from there. Any questions on that? Okay. So under 5, buyer's broker. Yes.
Oh, hi. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
I did the the ABR course with Kim recently,
Yep.
and she indicated otherwise. She
What did
said
you say?
she had indicated that if we had the seller's permission to disclose what they're willing to pay out to the buyer, that as long as the seller agrees to it, that we could, if another agent calls us on our listing, tell them what the seller rather is willing to pay out. If we don't get the seller's permission and they don't want to, then we say what you just said. So that's what she had indicated in the course to us.
Um, well, I'm not sure that's accurate or whether you misunderstood her, but I mean, um, the funny thing is about this is that this is new for everybody. So everybody has a different, has heard different things from different people and has different spins on how things go. But that would seem to be, and I'll double check with her about that because she specifically told me the exact opposite. Any discussion of compensation exposes yourself legally. Um, so I'll double check with her on that since she's more of an expert on this than I am. Uh, and I'll put an email out to the company. But I don't think that's accurate. Um, anyway, uh, any other questions first before I keep going? All right. So on the additional terms, okay, number 7, you're going to put in there that in the event that Steve Webster brings in the buyer, procures the buyer on this transaction, there's an additional fee of 2.5% payable to Success Real Estate. All right. So that's where you get the entire 5% if you bring in the buyer and you're the listing agent on the property. Okay. So it's really important that you discuss how the compensation works with your clients so that they understand and you understand how the whole thing is going to be. And one of the things that you need to be crystal clear about is that not paying the buyer's agent is not an option. Every single offer is going to have compensation attached to it. So if your seller says to you, "Hey, Sarah, I've been watching the news too, and I don't have to pay the buyer's broker. Let the buyer pay it. I'm not paying it." Then you haven't properly explained how this all thing is going to shake down here. The offers are all going to come with compensation attached to it. Not compensating the buyer's broker is not an option. And they've got to understand that. It's really, really important. All right. And if they say to you, "You know what, I'm not compensating, no way, no how," then you're going to need to walk away from this listing because you're going to have a tough time selling this property with no compensation being offered. All right, so we've gone over the exclusive right to sell listing agreement. Any questions on that so far?
Sorry, Steve, which box did you say to check off at number 5?
Number 5, you're going to check off the second one, which is that does not authorize the listing broker to offer buyer broker's fee. Now, John, it's important that you explain that to your sellers because they're going to be thinking to themselves, "Well, if we don't offer compensation, aren't we going to be at a disadvantage?" No, you're not going to be at a disadvantage because virtually nobody is offering compensation because it exposes the company and it exposes the agent to settlement problems. All right. So you're going to click B. I mean, the second box on that does not authorize. All right. And again, when people call you up, and I get this all the time, when people call you up and say, hey, are you offering compensation? Remember what I said a few moments ago, that your seller fully anticipates paying, just put it into the offer. That's all you got to say. All right. All right. So that's the exclusive right to sell. Let's go over the buyer agency agreement. Before I begin, any questions on the buyer agency agreement that you want specifically answered?
Steve, I hate to sound redundant with the same question, but when you say write down under additional terms that
Yep.
in the event Steve Webster procures the buyer, there's an additional fee payable to Success. Does
Yep.
that mean, so I have a listing and then I find the buyer? Does that mean I'm doing dual agency or I'm just sending?
No.
I'm just sending the list the listing to someone else, to another agent.
No. I mean, no. You never do that. Okay. So let me go over that with you. That's a really good question. All right. Let's say that you you get a new listing and you're doing an open house, and somebody walks through the open house and they say to you, you know what? I love this house. We want to buy it. And the first question you're going to ask is, are you working with a broker right now? Are you under contract with a broker? And they're going to say, no, we've just been going to open houses. We haven't signed up with anybody. Okay, terrific. So, meet me at my office at, 2:00 and let's get this offer squared away. You don't even have to meet people at offices anymore. You can pretty much do things through dotloop. But you need to explain to them that you work for the seller and in the seller's best interest. However, you're not going to be, the only thing that needs to be negotiated is the price. Because once the price has been established, they are your customer, and you want to make sure that the experience they have is wonderful, because you want them to list with you when they sell in 5 or 10 years. So as long as they understand that, when it comes to price, we got to wrangle a little bit about the price. But other than that, once we come to an agreement on the price, we're in good shape with each other.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
Yeah. Yep. It's
All
a
right.
little.
But it's important that you understand, because a lot of people, and this is crazy that they do this, all right, is you have an opportunity here to make 5% as opposed to 2.5%. All right. So the last thing you want to do is pass off that buyer to somebody else so that they can have representation. You want to explain to them that, we're gonna talk about the price, but then once that's established, I'm going to help you with the home inspection. I'm going to help you with the financing. I'm going to help you get, from point A to point B all the way through, and as long as they understand that aspect of it, there's no problem with saying that you're a seller's agent in that particular situation. All right. And you would get the 5% as opposed to the 2.5%. Now, you may, and I mean may, get somebody who says, well, let me get this straight. So you are not representing me. Yes, that's true. I'm not representing you. All right. But, and then you go on to the spiel that I just explained. But if they say to you, you know what, we're uncomfortable with that. We would like some representation, and we don't want it to be you. Okay. All right. So what you do is you pass that off to me, and I would represent them, and I'm not going to cost you anything. All right. I'm not going to take a cut other than the cut that that Success normally would take. So what you would say in that situation is, let me connect you to my manager, and he will represent you during the negotiation stage in terms of the price. And then once the price has been established, then we'll start talking again. Okay. And then you can take over. All right. So do you understand that part?
Yes, that's clear. Yeah.
Okay. All
It
right.
might not seem very fair to buyers, I feel like.
You feel what?
I feel like buyers might feel it's unfair. They would want someone watching out for them, right?
Well, I mean, you will be watching out for them once the price has been established. Okay, because it's in your best interest, it's in your seller's best interest, and it's in the buyer's best interest to look out for them. When, and let me give you an example. I mean, when you talk to somebody and you realize during this conversation that they don't give a damn about you. All they care about is the commission. All right. And what happens to you means nothing to them. It's bad business to go down that path. It's good business to explain to people that it's in the best interest of my sellers to treat you fairly. I mean, if I alienate somebody, then what's been accomplished? Nothing. Everybody is just on edge all the time, thinking everyone's out to screw them. Building the trust, building the relationship is vitally important, which is why if somebody says that to you and says, well, I'd rather have somebody represent me during the price part of it, that's fine. And if they wanted to talk to me down the road, of course they can call me. Absolutely. So if they say, I'm a little unsure about this or that, I just want to get your opinion of that, I can absolutely take care of that. I can jump in and talk to them. All right. But our job as salespeople is to get the deal done and get paid. That's what we're all about. But it's to do it properly and fairly so that everybody feels like they got a fair shake and nobody was taken advantage of during the process. In fact, if you download Steve's 1, 2, 3, which is the kind of the property checklist kind of thing, it's designed to short circuit problems that have come up over the years. For example, oil adjustment. When you are putting together an offer to purchase or a purchase and sales agreement, you need to talk about the oil adjustment that's going to take place at the closing. And if you don't have that conversation with them, but you have that conversation with them 24 hours prior to conveyance, they're going to see it as a bait and switch, and you never told me about this. So it's really, it's really important to have these conversations that are going to potentially be a problem way ahead of time, as opposed to, as they are occurring at the closing. The same is true for all of our commission plans. All of our commission plans are in black and white. They're all fair. There's no special deals to anybody. And we are fair to everybody. That's the way it has to be in order to build the relationship. All right, so let's move on to the buyer agency agreement. So this is a little bit more complex. All right. And the term should be for, I would say, 90 days. Would probably be the appropriate amount of time. And the reason I say 90 days is because after 90 days, they're getting sick of you and you're getting sick of them. And remember that, whether it's a listing or whether it's a buyer contract, every relationship begins like dating, I mean, it's new and it's fresh and it's great. But then after, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, when problems start occurring, you miss a phone call, you miss a text message. they start to fall out of love with you. All right. So I would say 90 days. Obviously, you can make your own decision on how long you want to stick with somebody. But if you're really working them and they haven't bought in 90 days, and keep in mind, things are different right now because we actually have inventory right now. As opposed to a year ago when there was nothing for sale in all of Pembroke, for example. I mean, how can you sell people homes when there are no homes to sell? Now we have homes to sell, so that's a good thing. So I would say 90 days on that. So the important part of this contract is number 4. All right. And we're not doing hourly fees. Okay. So you can ixnay that one. We're doing commission as a percentage of the sale price of the house. All right. So that's where you're going to put in there. And I would put in there 2.5%. Okay. I'm seeing probably, I don't know, 90% of the offers that I take a look at are at 2.5%. So why cheat yourself? Go in at 2.5% instead of 2. All right. And the seller is going to be compensating you anyway, not the buyer. All right. So you're going to put the 2.5% in there. You're going to explain to your buyers that when we do an offer, that this is going to be part of the offer, and that it will be paid off the seller's side of the settlement statement. Does everybody understand that? Yes? Okay. That pretty much is the only other part of the buyer agency agreement, okay, that I want to talk about is the fact that when do you sign this agreement with people? And you sign this agreement with somebody when you are going to be showing them multiple properties. So if you meet somebody at an open house and they're walking through the house, you're not having them sign anything, open house is fine. And they say to you, you know what? I'd like to work with you and I'd like you to show me properties. Terrific. That's fantastic. Let me show you our contract, show you how it works, explain that this is the way real estate is done and that everybody is doing it this way. That if you want to see a bunch of properties, you have to fill this out and make a commitment to me. I'm making a commitment to you and you're making a commitment to me, and it's for 90 days. And you're not going to see a property with anybody else. You're just going to see it with me. And you basically have to explain this to people like kind of like their children. So when you walk through, if you go to an open house without me, here's my card. Okay, give them my card. Let me know what you're doing. It's a little big brother, but let me know what you're doing. So I can track what properties you've seen, what properties you haven't seen, and we can follow up and say, what did you think of that property? What did you think of this property? But the olden days of, you work with somebody, you show them a couple of properties, and then, you kind of forget about them because new people come along. Those days are over. This is like a listing, except it's buyers. All right. So it's really a benefit, if you ask me, because prior to this whole settlement thing happening, nobody was signing contracts with buyers. Now everybody's signing contracts with buyers. So getting a contract with a buyer is just as exciting as getting a new listing. All right. Especially, as I said, because you have inventory to actually show them, which is a big plus. So any questions on the exclusive buyer agency agreement?
Steve, hi, this is Ann. I have question. I
Ann.
think, hi, I think I know the answer to this, but just
Yeah.
getting back to what we were talking about a little while, or you were talking about a little while ago with regard to somebody coming in and not represented at an open house, and then
Yep.
the selling agent working there now with the buyer. Are we required to have them sign, in that instance, are we required to have them also sign a buyer agency agreement?
If they already have a contract with somebody else?
No, if they don't have a contract with somebody else, then now you're going to be representing them along with the seller. You know, you were
Well,
talking about earlier in terms of the 5% commission and,
Yes.
getting basically both sides of the deal.
Right. So, well, a couple of questions. Are the people that walk through your open house, do they want to buy that house?
Right, yes.
Okay, so you're not going to sign them up as a buyer client.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I
Because,
figured.
yeah, because again, you can't represent
Right.
two parties that have completely different agendas. All right. Picture, you rob a bank, okay, and now you're in court. You can't have the prosecutor and the defense attorney both working for you. It's impossible.
Right.
Okay, because one's trying to prosecute you and one's trying to defend you. With this situation, one's trying to get it for as low as possible on the price, and the other person's trying to get it for as high as possible on the
Mhm.
price. So during that stage of you have completely different agendas, and which is why I explained earlier that you know, you can use me as a straw if they don't want to work with you personally during that particular stage. But ideally, this is your buyer. I don't want to really develop a relationship with these people. I want you to develop a relationship with these people. And that will come when they see that they can trust you and that you're treating them fairly and that you're looking out for them. And I used the example of the oil adjustment a little while ago. And that's a really good example because I can't tell you how many relationships have blown up because of one tiny little thing at the very tail end, all right, that should have been discussed when you signed the purchase and sales agreement. You know, you put a little yellow part and you say, you know what? It says right here in the purchase and sales agreement that there's going to be an oil adjustment at the end. I just want to let you know that's how it works and that we're going to be asking for a check for, whatever's left in the oil tank. And they think, okay, all right. And so when that happens, when you have that conversation with them in 45 days, they're not mad at you. They were expecting it. All right. But you've got to kind of go over all these little, and I call them gremlins because you got to short circuit the gremlins. There's little things along the way that that are going to ruin your relationship if you don't discuss it ahead of time. All right. For example is when you're getting your listing, you're going to have a conversation with your sellers and go, look, buyers are going to have a home inspection. Almost certainly they're going to have a home inspection. And almost certainly you're not going to get a big smiley face on that inspection report. There might be some things that pop up on the inspection report that we might have to address in one way or the other. We don't know what those things are. But when we find out, we're going to address them and see what we can do to make the deal happen. And if you don't have that conversation with your sellers, then when suddenly they want $2,000 off, they're pissed. I didn't know they were going to do this. We told them this was our bottom line. So that's again a gremlin that needed to be short-circuited. So anyway, did that answer your question?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So any other questions on these? I think we've gone over the two major things. Yes, no? Okay. So as I said, I'm really happy with the way that things are progressing with this. There's been a lot fewer problems than I was anticipating. I was anticipating absolute, chaos, but it hasn't been that way at all. And I think everybody's adopting to the new rules and regs pretty well. What I'm going to do is I was looking at some videos the other day, and Apple has a new, it's kind of like a little microphone that you can put right on your lapel here, and makes the videos a lot clearer to understand. But I'm going to be creating a video for this, for the listing contract, for the offer to purchase. And just so you know where I'm going with my thought processes is that, I started this Zoom meeting talking about the offices and the fact that it's so hard to get people to come in for training. And it's so hard it's virtually impossible. Nobody wants to come into the office anymore. Everybody's doing everything from home. And we're going to be gravitating to more of a cloud-based brokerage. And what that means is we're going to be doing more of these Zoom meetings, so you don't have to run to the office and down to Marshfield or Braintree. It's been frustrating for us because we set aside 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock on a Wednesday to do a training, and 1 or 2 people show up. So we're going to be doing more of these Zoom meetings, and we're going to be doing more trainings that you can go to on our website and see me explain the buyer agency, the buyer contract, the listing contract, so that, if you need to refer back, you can refer back. And I forget who it was that asked me about the Kim, who was that? Okay, I'm gonna have a conversation with Kim about that today, and I'll send an answer out by way of an email to the company, just so that everybody understands, how it's supposed to be done properly. All right, and with that, I say thank you. Any other last questions before we leave? All right, sounds good, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. And we'll talk to everyone soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.